Let me put some music in the background here. Perfect. Actually, I'm gonna stop music just because I'm not 100% sure if putting Super Mega Baseball music affects any copyrights or anything.
Forgot about the whole copyright shit.
Does it? Would it? I feel like it would, I'm pretty sure it doesn't. I think I'll know. I'll play SMB4 specific music. So you know what?
Play, just play, and it'll just mute it. That. Oh well. Play play Roman Reigns theme song, WWE. That's a good song or wordless song.
Actually, just stay in second. I'm gonna choose. Let's go. I was just pretty much looking for a song real quick that'll be pretty much wrapped up by the time this timer ticks down. Cause I know SMB4 music, that's royalty free. And I know that because this is what we use for the XBL. We just load up the SMB4 soundtrack.
What do we got on the countdown clock?
We're at a minute and 13 seconds.
Finish up and get ready.
Yep.
I'm just doing chores in the meantime.
By the way, I'll have to figure it out, but right now your audio will be going through.
I think I sent you the order in chronological order with day one and then day two, but we'll see.
The game reports. Yeah, just looking through here, everything is on track. Looks good.
Astro Cyclone should be the first game. Yeah.
All right. I wasn't sure how that also would pop up. We'll have to center that eventually. But that being said, we'll switch over to the games for the week. And you know, Shaggy, you came up with these nice little graphics that we're about to show off. So you ready for this?
Yeah, absolutely excited to get underway.
All
Great week
right.
of SSBL baseball and excited for some more.
In that case, here we go. Look at this a new week, new logo, new graphics. So you covered day one, Shaggy. So let's take away here. Astros versus Cyclones.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a pretty good game. Astros after a week off last week coming in, um, looking to continue to start strong after a week one win. So they begin week three with a 8-4 win over the Cyclones, a pretty good Cyclones team that falls to 1-2 now. Um, Nothing spectacular from the pitching side. Very modest for Mostis and Giuseppe. Giuseppe does give up the 5 earned runs. Mostis only the one, but neither of them are able to get through 6 innings. As you can see, there was not a ton of long ball scoring in this. The Astros kind of dinked their way around until they got that 2-run home run in the top of the eighth, but everything else was, sac flies, RBI singles, RBI groundouts. The Cyclones were able to put a couple over the wall just barely, and that kind of kept them in this game for the most part. But Faulkner's 5 for 5. Um, with a
Wow.
triple RBI and 4 stolen bases really kind of stands out as one of the better performances we saw this week.
Yeah, that was definitely a good start there. 8 runs. Whenever you score 8 runs in a game, more likely than not, you're gonna end up being the winner. So good game there from the Astros. And then we are about to go into game number two of the night here. And this one, oh, as a manager of this game, oh man, this one was a doozy.
Yeah, absolutely. You got Knights Lumberjacks, so two teams coming in at 2-0, looking to get to 3-0 and join that selective crew. Both the Lumberjacks and Knights, two of the top five potentially teams in this league power wise, with a really good head-to-head matchup here. Good duel from the pitching side of things. Church does give up the 4 earned runs, but isn't tagged with the loss. This game ends up going down to the wire with a 2-run homer for the Knights in the top of the ninth to tie at 4-4. But Adele Gordon, only 2 for 6 today, but she's been on fire to start this season. Second round pick, I do believe, and she hits a 3-run walk-off homer, and that's her second of the year. She's been batting well. She only went 2 for 6, but hit when it mattered most. On top of that, the Knights had Hebert. He was on fire, and I do believe he ended the game on fire. So we'll see if he can carry that over into the next game. Uh, Other than that, George with a home run, 2 for 3, and Martinez seventh strong, only 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts. Really good for the Lumberjacks. They're getting the pitching they needed.
Yeah, just a little touch up here. Gordon was our first round pick here. That was definitely that was a hectic game. If you're watching, there's a lot of chaos, especially toward the end. I don't know if you were watching, but the pitcher Palacios, the one who almost had the perfect game in week one, he actually came up to bat. The AI subbed him in, and because he had a whole lot of contact from being on fire. So
Right.
that was a funny little moment to see there. But we're going to game three here. Final score 7-1. Wrongfielders kind of walk away with what seemed to be a easy victory for them.
Yeah, absolutely. You described it. You hit the nail pretty much on the head. Lots of home runs here. I believe 4 in total for the wrong fielders. They were able to really hit the ball well and never really let the Dragons get off the ground. This game went pretty much as you'd expect it, and we'll talk a little bit more later in some segments about these two teams. But the wrong fielders have really started the season strong. They're definitely a team to look out for. Dragons, on the other hand, falling to 0-3, not the start they were looking for. Parrish for the wrong fielders pitched a hell of a game. Getting into that late seventh inning before getting the hook, getting 9 Ks. That's what you want to see, only surrendering the 1 earned run.
Yeah, 7-1, 3-0 start for the Wrongfielders. Definitely a good spot to be in at the beginning of the season. Dragons on the opposite end, and I was sitting at 0-3, not what you're looking for. We go into game four and look at that. Retrievers versus Express. Final score 8-3.
Yeah, absolutely. This is an interesting one. The Retrievers continued to bounce back after that week one loss to the Liberty. Have the Express, who they are the defending champions, however, they have not started in championship fashion, starting 0-3, arguably one of the least promising teams so far this season. Rebecca Ellis injury has really, really handicapped them to start the season here and not gotten them off on the wrong foot. Um, Phillips was only able to go 2 innings before taking a line drive off the head, and that was likely for the best, as they had already given up five, and the two runners on did end up scoring, so they did get charged with 7 earned runs and 9 hits in the 2 innings pitched.
Ooh,
Um, they did get hit in the head with a comebacker. They suffer extreme pain. They are hurt tier one, so it'll be a long road to recovery. Hopefully, they're able to go for next round through. If not, there's a good chance you see a bullpen game for the Express. Screw Brazon, another awesome pick for the Retrievers in the draft, I believe, has absolutely dominated to start the season. 4 for 6 game with a home run. Brazon is on fire.
we go into our next game here. Your Mythic defeating the Storm. Final score 8-2. Another. Seems a lot of games this night have been pretty much lopsided, more or less.
Yeah, for the most part. Every run in this game was scored via the home run. One of the big things, again, I've mentioned that I set out to do with this Mythic team is have a potent lineup, and that's what they've been doing. They've been swinging the bat well. Vip Vance's solo home run in the top of the ninth at 484 feet is the new longest home run this season, and it's exactly kind of what we're looking for. Sonny Driver coming in a trade from the Serpents. Goes six and 2/3, only surrendering the 1 earned run. 4 Ks, so not fanning people, but really efficient. Got through with 86 pitches and handed it off to the bullpen where they were able to seal the deal.
Very nice, very nice. And we go into the
The
final game here of game of day one. The final score 3-5 in the Sonics' favor. Is this the first away or I guess home team that won? Seems like it.
I'm looking through. No, Lumberjacks won at home with the
Right,
walk
right,
off.
right.
That's the only other one. Um, yeah, this was a pretty interesting game here. Sonics and Liberty. I think a lot of what the Sonics are trying to do is they don't have a lot of power in their lineup, but they have a ton of contact and they seem to be pretty good speed and pitching. So Shaka Sports Turf is a perfect place for them to be hosting their home games. Lots of room to just slap the ball around and run. They have the speed to manage that extra, extra large outfield and foul territory, and their defense is good. Their pitching can keep the ball in the ballpark, especially there for sure. The park very well fits the Sonics. And as you see here, they were able to just do exactly that. Just a couple of doubles, scoring on a throwing error, a single, a double, and then just a solo home run. Really kind of is what you expect from the Sonics. They're not going to blow you away with overwhelming power, but they're just going to kill you with 1,000 paper cuts. Really, really good to see from the Sonics as they bounce back after a loss, I believe, last week. Liberty, on the other hand, they fought and they battled. There were some promising things to take away from this Liberty game here. They're obviously not trying to compete this year, but Woody Terry had a hell of a game. 2 for 4 with a home run and a double, 2 RBIs. He's definitely a piece that the Liberty should be very proud of with their scouting department. He was either a third round or an undrafted free agent. Great pickup from the Liberty at not much cost, especially when they're going to be refilling their entire team most likely next year with that excessive amount of draft capital they have. Woody Terry is a nice piece to have that can help fill some gaps or maybe allow them to focus their drafting capital on other aspects.
Very nice, very nice. We go into day
Oh,
two.
sorry, one
Or
more thing.
sorry,
One
go
more
on.
thing. And this one hurt because this is another player that has the potential to fill a gap for the Liberty, but Ryder Vaneman suffered a meniscus tear and is
Ooh.
downgraded to hurt level 1.
Ooh, so that's the max amount of games missed, right? That should be at least
Yep.
4 games, I want to say.
Down to tier one, so it'll be a decently long road to recovery for Vaneman.
Certainly not what you like to see there. Well, that ends day one. We go into day two. It was a 6-6 split this week. And kicking things off were the Astros versus the Quacks. The final score being 9-3 here, as you can see. Just scroll down for a second. Winning pitcher was Alani Pushups, going 5 and a third innings, 7 hits, giving up only 3 runs, a walk, and getting 9 strikeouts to boot. Carp has handled the loss, only going 5 innings, giving up 7 earned runs. This was a real a home run game. The Astros hit. I'm counting here 4 home runs, and as you can see, Undermeyer lead things off as number one player of the game. She had a home run, a double, and 3 RBIs to kick. Prince, the first round pick for the Astros, he's been outstanding so far, going 2 for 5 with a home run and 2 RBIs. And then end things off, Keith here getting a 2 run shot in the bottom of the second. And just a notable performance here is Peterson going 3 for 5 with 2 runs. Overall, great performance here for the Astros as they advance to 3-0 on the season. Quacks end up dropping down to 1-2.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is, I thought, a pretty interesting game in terms of the Astros getting to 3-0 with a dominating win, definitely vaulting them into sort of a new stratosphere that we haven't really discussed them in yet, and we'll talk about them more later, being able to be a very competitive team that's looking to make the playoffs and potentially make a run at a decently long playoff season. The Quacks, on the other hand, fall to 1-2. I expect a little more from the Quacks. They had a really good season last year, and so we'll see if they can rebound.
Yeah, and as we continue to our next game, another 3-0 team here. We see the High Rollers taking a 4-1 victory over the Serpents. This was another game here. High Rollers, they've shown a lot of promise this season, and you know their strategy with just dominant pitching just continues to pay off. Walt Shizo going 8 and a third innings, only giving up 4 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, and collecting 8 strikeouts. While Havoc Overlord is hit with a loss, he pitched a solid game, so I wouldn't blame his pitching on their loss. He went to 6 and a third innings, giving up 8 hits, only gave up 2 runs though, and also getting 8 strikeouts. So only 6 innings, about 6 innings of work, and still collecting 8 strikeouts. That's definitely an impressive and promising performance from him. But the Serpents offense just could not get anything going. All they had was just a solo shot in the bottom of the second. We see here players of the game, Shizo. We see number one. Number two is Davidson going 3 for 5 with a solo shot, and Lloyd for the High Rollers. So this is a High Roller sweep. Also getting a 2-run homer to put the game to rest. Final score 4-1 here.
Yeah, no, this is really good to see from the High Rollers. They continue to really make sure that everybody understands that they're arguably one of the most dominant teams in the SSBL this season. This is exactly the type of performance the High Rollers are looking for. We've discussed it already with that 5-0 opener, but here you go again. You get 3 home runs from the bats. It seems like they're starting to swing them well, and then the pitching holds the Serpents to only 1 run. Again, we'll talk more about both the High Rollers and Serpents later in a upcoming segment we're starting this week, but really promising to see the High Rollers start 3-0. Really concerning to see the Serpents start 0-3.
Certainly, as we go into our third game of the night here, Walkers versus Moonshots. Final score, uh, 2-5 here. Moonshots, just continuing their strong start to the season. We see Strickland for the Walkers collect a loss, went 4 and 2/3 inning, giving up 6 hits, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, and 4 strikeouts. Only 71 pitches. Honestly, I think the The Walkers were maybe a little too quick in pulling Strickland out of the game, but it ultimately didn't really affect them in the final score. We see Huff getting 7 innings of work, only giving up 4 hits, 2 earned runs, and collecting 6 strikeouts. This was just a well-rounded performance from the Moonshots. This time, not no home runs for them, but they didn't need it as they had Houndstooth there. You see in the second slot, getting double RBI. He did it all. He had stolen base. He had 2 walks as well, which is something you don't really see often here in the SSBL, especially from one player. And then our third player here is Sawyer. She's the one who gave the Walkers their only run scored of the night with a 2-run shot in the top of the sixth. Moonshots, another 3-0 team here. They invested a lot into going all into the season, and so far it feels like it's paid off for them.
Yeah, this is an interesting spot, I think, and it'll be further interesting to see both these teams after we get through that 4 week or that 4 game stim period. The Walkers are a fringe playoff team. I think if they get hot, they could make it, but I see them as missing out by a spot or two, a few games. So it'll be interesting to see maybe what direction they go at the trade deadline. And it'll be important to see how they're performing. If this Walkers team gets off to, what is it, the 3-5, 2-6 start, you definitely possibly sellers here at the deadline. If they can get to that 500 mark, it'll be interesting to see what direction they go. The Moonshots, on the other hand, obviously they had a huge offseason and a huge draft. Are these two players in Reese and Houndstooth enough to carry a team that was pretty dreadful last year? And they're off to a really hot start, exactly what you're wanting to see. Can they maintain this pace through 32 games?
Certainly, we'll find that answer in the upcoming weeks as we go into our next game of the night here. Final score, absolute blowout by Area 51. Final score 10-1. This is Area 51's first win of the season, and this is what you really looked for. They had Locos on the mound who gave them 8 and 2/3 innings of work, only giving up six hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, and collecting 6 strikeouts. Just a well-rounded performance there. Not a lot of strikeouts for almost 9 innings, but when you're able to get outs, doesn't really matter how you get it. And we got the Monstars. They dropped 0-3. They're kind of on the opposite end here of the spectrum. We saw the Monstars also invest heavily into this season, and so far has not paid off for them. The De La Cruz was chased out by the fourth inning, giving up 12 hits, 9 earned runs, and collecting only 5 strikeouts on 64 pitches. It was just absolute, not a good inning whatsoever. We have an Area 51 sweep here for our top players of the game. Ocherio collecting a home run, a double, and 4 RBIs. Blackwell collecting a 2 RBI single and a solo shot. And finally, we have Flower Droop collecting 3 RBIs and having a double and 2 runs on the game.
Yeah, again, this is the other side of the coin, as you mentioned, with the Monstars. And this is where the moonshots concern me, is the Monstars heavily invested. They had 2 top 10 picks that were supposed to carry the franchise forward after a disappointing season the year before. And this is the flip side of the coin that the moonshots could experience if things are to not go the right way. On the other side, the Monstars can rebound and look like the moonshots. It'll just be really interesting to see how you have the moonshots and the Monstars are mirror images of each other in terms of how they invested in this offseason and how they look to restructure their teams after, failures of seasons the years before. And they have two completely different outcomes. So it'll be interesting to see, is it going to continue that way? Is there going to be a regression to the mean? Because these two teams are very comparable. And right now, their records do not reflect that.
Certainly. We go into our fifth game of the night here. Final score 6-1. Bombers taking a commanding victory over the Stingers here. This was another pretty dominant game for the Bombers here. Annabelle Mason collecting the win, going on 6 innings pitched, only gave up 2 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks and 5 strikeouts. Only had 73 pitches, so another one of those pitchers who just kind of got pulled pretty early on. But sometimes it's good to get that early pull. You keep their mojo locked in for future game. And we see Chandler Longstroke being handed the loss here, only going 4 and 2/3 innings, giving up 5 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts. 3 walks, that's not something you really want to be doing, because those walks they more often than not can lead into very long innings. We see here our players of the game. Uh, Nico Donaldson taking first place here, getting 2 home runs, 2 runs shot in the first, a solo shot in the fourth, collecting 3 RBIs there. We got Guzman coming in here, getting a solo shot in the top of the ninth, and Huber for the Stingers collecting their only run of the game with another solo shot. Bombers, had a solid performance here. They shut down the Stingers, and they're just showing why they are one of, if not the top ranked team in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is an interesting game here for the Stingers coming off of, a really, really disappointing blown game against the Mythic in week two. Um, it's going to be really interesting to see if they're able to rebound. They have the talent to do so, and this should be a playoff team, the Stingers squad here. However, if they can't perform, it'll be again curious to see because they have a massive asset in Huber. Huber's been amazing so far this season. Would the Stingers contemplate flipping him for a draft haul and really use one player to help invigorate the entirety of a team? Granted, this could be very early to be pressing that panic button. They could be perfectly fine. Both their losses came to two top five teams in the league in both the Mythic and the Bombers. And so I think the Stingers should hold off on pressing the panic button, but it's something to keep in mind if things don't go right. Could Huber find himself on the way out at the trade window?
Definitely a very interesting question that the Stingers will have to determine here over the next coming weeks. We go into our final game of the week here, and this one, final score 4-3. This one I think was a classic SSBL game. I think probably one of my more favorite games to have watched for day two. Diamond Jacks collecting their first win of the season here. Skulls of Rock dropping into 0-3. We see Zhang, who's a reliever for the Diamond Jacks, collects the win. The the starter for the Diamond Jacks, went 7 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs. That's Corey, Crispy Thunder, getting 7 strikeouts on 81 pitches. The Skulls of Rock starter went, Jaziel Hensley went 5 in the third inning, getting 7 hits, 3 earned runs, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. Losing pitcher being Hoops for the Skulls of Rock, or Heaps, I should say, for Skulls of Rock. Bradley's handed the save. This one was definitely Diamondbacks. They started strong. They got 3 runs in the top of the sixth. Skulls of Rock in the seventh and eighth. They had 2 home runs. They had Kent with a solo shot in the seventh, and Kip Shaw hitting a 2-run shot in the bottom of the eighth. That tied the game up, but you got Sandoval, top of the ninth, hit a solo shot, 380 feet, that gave the Diamondbacks their first win of the season. Diamondbacks, they've had a lot of really close games this season. Last week, I believe they had a similar case where they had a lead going into the bottom of the ninth, and then the Unicorns hit that home run on them to stun them. Um, Skulls of Rock 0-3, not really an ideal start to the season for them.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what the Skulls of Rock do. In reality, I think they should be sellers at the trade deadline here, starting off 0-3, losing to frankly, a pretty poor Diamond Jacks team here. Um, they got some pieces, but when I look at the Skulls of Rocks team, there isn't an absolutely excessive amount of substance there with the team. They got some good pitching on the top end, but they have some really, really weak players as well. Walter, Chung, and even McWally's are good pitchers, but then they have a handful of really, really underwhelming pitchers on that team, as well as, they have a few good players, but again, they might be more interested in really trying to sell off at this trade deadline, especially if this is going to be how the season goes. They're not really going to compete. Maybe again, just like I was talking about earlier, sell off a few pieces, really invest in the draft in a season or two to come, and see if they can really build a championship team. Because right now, as this team stands, I don't see them as a championship team.
Yeah, I guess the neat thing with how the SSBL now works is that you don't have like it's not such a long and tedious wait if you go down the route of getting a tank and getting some picks in return, as the rookies are usually going to be the best players on your team. So that's definitely a potential route the Skulls of Rock can take here. But we'll discuss that further in just a moment. As we now go into our first of two segments here, we have or sorry, no, I guess I should say first of three segments, our week three power rankings. You crafted this, Shaggy, so I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, I came into this. I posted week one, didn't do one week two, so this week three is reflecting on week one. High Rollers, I still as the number one team. They've been dominant. They've done exactly what they needed to do all three games. They maintain that top spot. The Lumberjacks, they make the jump up. Another 3-0 team here. They've shown some really good promise. That pitching staff's been electric. Palacios was awesome, and that pick and Adele Gordon has really helped make the difference for that team. I got my Mythic here, sitting at three. Had some good games so far, I'd say. That comeback against what I think is a pretty good Stingers team. They've been scuffling a little bit, but that's a good comeback win for them. And then this week they put a fairly decent drubbing on a decent Storm team in my eyes. Wrong Fielder's been awesome this year, really climbing up the ranks quickly. I think I had them somewhere around six or eight. Looks like six last in week one. They've been dominant in their own fashion. They haven't really had any competitive games for the most part. They've really controlled every aspect of the game. Next two teams were not ranked, so entering to the power rankings for the first time I got the Astros and Moonshots, both 3-0. Astros had a really good week two, or excuse me, week three, getting two wins over some pretty good opponents. Monstars eked out a few, or the Moonshots eked out a few wins over some lesser opponents, so that's why I do have the Astros ranked just ahead of the Moonshots. Falling down, now we're getting into some 2-1 teams here, the Knights, Bombers, Sonics, and Retrievers, starting with the Knights. Again, they have the firepower to control their own destiny, and they lost to a good team, I believe, this week in, where is it? They lost to the Lumberjacks, so didn't punish them too much. Obviously, they fall outside of the 3-0 teams with that loss. However, a really good team in the Lumberjacks beat them, so I wouldn't be too concerned if I were them. Bombers falling out too. They're 2-1 as well. They had a good win against the Stingers this week. However, they have had some scuffling. They've had some one-run wins in some games they maybe should have won by a little bit more. So interesting to see the Bombers get back to their form this week. Sonics, tightly contested game against the Liberty this week, but for the most part, they've been able to handle their business. And then I have the Retrievers jumping in to the round out the top 10 after a nice little 8-3 drubbing of the Express.
Yeah, definitely agree with your rankings here. I think the Bombers. I think just with this performance last week against Sting, I think they deserve maybe a jump or two here. Maybe I think I'd slot them around the 5-6 slot, but just because also just on their overwhelming team. I think they're the ranked number one team, from my understanding. So
Right.
you know, that,
You're right. They probably should be ranked higher when you look at the totality of the team. For me, it was just looking at the performances. Even though they are
right,
two and
right.
one, even those two wins have not, or the first one was not very convincing. This win against the Stingers was very solid. They didn't beat what I believe is a 0-3 Stingers team. I think they beat them by one run. So I think just performance wise, they've been a little bit underwhelming from what I expect the Bombers to be this year.
Fair. And we go into our second segment for today. Buy or sell. This will be Teams, I believe, sitting at 3-0 on the season. So Shaggy, I think you have the list of teams in front of you. So I guess I'll let you kick it off. Buy or sell.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is just going to be a little segment. Do you buy them being a 3-0 team? Do you think that they have the potential to maintain this, or are you going to sell on them while their stock is quote unquote high? So we'll start off here with the Astros, who got to 3-0 this week. Really good so far this week. They had a 8-4 win over the Cyclones, as well as a 9-3 win over the Quacks.
They've had some solid performances here. 3-0, definitely liking what I'm seeing. However, I think just the biggest concern is, can they really, maintain this strength here? And
Yeah,
I'm not entirely sure because I'm just looking at the ranking. It's their number. They're 15. It's gonna be pretty hard for them, I think, to be able to compete with some of the bigger names in their conference and division. But you never know. Maybe they're able to continue punching above the weight. Maybe some moves are made at the deadline. But right now, I'm not completely buying into this team.
I'd say that's fair. They are ranked as a middle of the pack team. I think their performances so far have been something to keep an eye on. They've been able to hit the ball really, really well. Um, And then I think I'm gonna buy on him because I also trust with Aggie being a fairly active manager. He's constantly checking those lineups, making sure that he doesn't have any rattled or injured players in his lineup. I think he's really taken good interest in that team, and if they continue this, I fully expect Aggie to add at the deadline to help this team make a playoff push. Second team here I got is going to be the High Rollers at 3-0. Um, for me, I think it's a no-brainer. You buy on them. They've been ranked. They're ranked as one of the best teams in the league this year, and they've performed as one of the best teams in the league this year. Their pitching has been phenomenal, and their bats have been just as good so far. They've done what they needed to do. I'm full buy on the High Rollers. I think their stock's really high. I expect them to be championship or bust this season.
Yeah, I think with the high rulers, I think as long as their pitchers live up to their potential, I think the sky's the limit for them. I think that's real. I think they're one of those teams that are also gonna live and die on their pitchers because their offense, it's solid. It's nothing that's gonna wow you, but they can put in runs. And with their pitching staff, you don't need a star-studded offense. All you need is a couple guys who you can trust to get you those hits and runs. And their pitching staff, especially come playoff time, they're second to none, and I don't think they really have any competition in that regard. So I'm also a buy for this team. I'm excited to see where they can go in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Team number three I have written down here is the Moonshots at 3-0. For me, this is a team I'm selling on. I think that it's been awesome to see what the rookies have done this season and really getting into the fray this year. They've definitely climbed the ranks and now have a much better ranked team. I want to see it for a little longer, and I think putting all your eggs in the basket of Reese and Houndstooth can be a little dangerous. From the looks at their team sheet, though, they do have a fairly decent team. However, a lot of that team did heavily underperform, and they did not live up to expectations last year. So we'll be curious to see if they can continue. I think just like I kind of mentioned with the Monstars, how they got two very similar off seasons, and the Monstars have been 0-3. I think there is going to be a little bit of a regression to the mean there.
No, I think I'm still buying on this Moonshots team. I mean, we saw their offense output in week two, scoring 18 runs. That's not, while obviously they're not gonna score 18 runs every single time. They still, that offense is still very strong. And it could be having nine people in your lineup that can get hits and home runs for you. It's like pretty hard to keep up with that all game long. So I think this is another team I'm still invested in. I think they're gonna keep the momentum, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into my mythic. We'll go back to back with my mythic here, and then we'll go to your lumberjacks. But my mythic, I'm gonna be a conservative buyer on them. I want to see what the rest of the pitching staff has to do. I think it's very dangerous, and I think I'd be more absolutely 100% buy on this Mythic team if it weren't for the fact we needed that comeback versus the Stingers. However, I have enjoyed the performances I've seen from them. The offense has done exactly what I've expected them to do this season. So I'm going to say buy. However, it's going to be heavily dependent on if the pitching can maintain.
Yeah, I think for your case, kind of a bit of flip side here. A lot of these 3-0 teams are, pitching dependent. You're more of an offense dependent. You need your offense to show out pretty much every single game since the pitching for the Mythic isn't as great as these other 3-0 teams. But looking at the rankings here, you have the number one offense in the league. So
Mhm.
it's always the classic tale of offense versus defense. Which one is more important? Some will say pitching, some will say offense, and I think we may get further evidence for either side based on your team.
I think the other big thing with my Mythic too is we've had from our seventh overall pick, Ding Hale. He's started off the season dreadfully. He's batting below 100.
Ooh,
He's rattled. He's probably going to be out next game. We're going to give him a break. So having somebody that you've invested that heavily in start off their career like that is probably not in the light you would like to see for a full sale buy. Getting into the next team here, we got your Lumberjacks. For me, this is again a no-brainer. I'm going to buy into this Lumberjacks team. I think the pitching on them is absolutely out of this world, as well as the bats can get going when they need to. Taking a look here again, the position ranks, team ranks, they got them as a top 10 team for the most part. However, I think there is a good chance that that can be hidden depending on your bench. I'm not sure. You could speak more on your bench and your lower end bullpen, but you guys got a hell of a pitching staff. So I'll kind of let you get into that there.
yeah. No, when it comes to Lumberjacks or pitching, we're very top heavy. That's pretty much the our 1-2 punch in the starting rotation. Palacios and Pepperonis. That's gonna basically be our championship or bust duo. If they're on, I don't. Me personally, I don't see who can take on this team. But if they're not on, then we're not gonna make it far. So they've had a great start to the season. They're gonna need to keep doing what they're doing. A lot of support pieces around. I'd say like no one on the offense aside from Gordon really exceptionally stands out. But when you have so many solid hitters, you can have pretty much the next guy up mentality. Not and just if someone's having a rough day, you just call up someone else and let them take over.
Absolutely. Last one we'll get into here, and I already see Whitney. Whitney's already commented on him here is the wrong fielders, and I'm on board with you there, Whitney. I'm a sell hard on the wrong fielders. I think they have a good team. I don't think they have a great team. I think they've been competing and they've been handling their business against some lesser teams, so to speak. Um, I think they're a good team, but I don't put them into that same category as, the high rollers or the lumberjacks or like even the mythic or moonshots in that regard. I see them as probably the weakest of the 3-0 teams so far. Um, Shots versus wrong fielders next week. That'll be an awesome game, just as you say. So we'll really get to see which one of those teams is for real. That'll be an awesome game. Good call out there, Pandora. So I'm gonna sell on the wrong fielders right now. I got the Moonshots winning next week, but that can change. So we'll see.
We talk about their schedule here, and just looking at it, I think this is also another reason to sell on these wrong fielders. Look what they have up. They got the Moonshots, and then they got the Knights. After the Knights, they got to go up against the Retrievers, and then right after that, they got to go up against the Lumberjacks. You have all those teams there have winning records. That's a very tough stretch, and I think will really determine if they're a buy or sell. I think if they can come away with two wins against those four teams, I think then you could start looking to buy into this team. But until then, I think it's a sell for me.
Yeah, cool. We'll go ahead and I'll sell it with you there on that wrong fielders team, and we can go ahead and get to Panic or Chill. So I believe this was a jacked special. Thought we'd bring it back for this. So Panic or Chill. We're going to be discussing some of the lower ranking teams. I did throw one and two team into there just for a little bit more fun. Keep it 6-6. But we'll start off here with the 0-3 Skulls of Rock.
0-3 Skulls of Rock. All right, take it away.
Yeah. So I'm a panic for this team. There's not much good on this team right now. I don't see them as a playoff team, and I don't see the pieces they have as championship contending pieces. I really think that this is a team that should be pressing the panic button, should be looking to sell hard this deadline, and really try to um, reinvigorate this team with some high draft picks and make a run at a championship in future years.
Yeah, the problem here for the Skulls of Rock is really their pitching. They only have really two, maybe three good pitchers on their team, but everyone else is just either mediocre or just downright awful. And only having three or four pitchers that you can rely on consistently, that's not a recipe for success. And their offense, they have some solid bats, but again, nothing that's gonna break through the barrier that they need to. Sitting at 0-3, they're gonna have to see how their team does in the next upcoming weeks. But they might already be starting to think about who can they sell off here, and to give it a try again next season.
Yeah, I think their most value they have is in their pitching between Walter and Chung. Um, it'll be curious to see does Josh consider selling off one of those pieces, as well as even a Cecilia Kent. Looks like they have a lot of season 10 players here on this team. Did they have a really any draft picks? Did they
I'm
already
not
get in?
I'm not
Let me take a look.
I'm not entirely sure who they drafted because I'm certain they did draft, but I'm not too
They
sure
drafted
who.
Harrington at 18 and then Aiden McGuire. So they only had two picks this
Okay, so I
this
think I think their
season.
lineup is just a little outdated from on the roster, but still
Yeah.
two
So
season 11 picks, not really the best. Might At this point might be best to just call the season and look into investing into next season or maybe season
yep.
13.
Yep, looks like they got their first, second, and third, unless there's been some crazy trade that I've missed, but it looks like they got their first, second, third. They haven't traded any picks, so I'd expect them. They should panic, sell off those higher rated players, and really try to get a lot of capital like the Liberty into next season, into next season's draft. Going into the next team, I got the 0-3 Monstars. So we already kind of gave a little discussion about them earlier, how they could be a fairly reflective image of the Moonshots. Looking at stats, it looks like Moonshots are a little bit higher rated. However, they had a very similar approach, and both of them are going to be out of picks next season. Um, does the Monstars panic here and sell off a lot of their players, trying to reinvigorate their ability to get back into the draft next year and try again? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say they're chill. I think they will um, come back to the mean. The 10-1 loss to Area 51 is a pretty close to panic level. However, I think they need to ride this out and potentially let their players get some consistency, a little bit more experience under their belt. But they're completely out of the next two. Oh no, it's Moonshots out of the next two draft. They're completely out of the next draft. So maybe you see them use some of their 13 picks to get back into the 12th. Maybe they sell off some of those middle to lower end pieces. But for right now, I'm going to say the Monsters should chill.
Yeah, I agree with you there. They're 0-3, but in a 32 game season, there's definitely plenty of time to recover and recuperate from that, especially in the second half. Maybe they have a different start and then they go hot. But yeah, I'm not too concerned about this Monstars team. 0-3 is never a nice feeling, but it's not the end of the world right now. They can definitely pick up a nice couple wins here and get back to 500, I think, within the next month or so.
for sure. Next team I got here is the defending champion 0-3 Express. Now, I think this is a very interesting one because, they didn't add a ton to their championship team and they lost Ellis, who really kind of led that team to the championship. For me, I'm gonna say panic. However, I don't mean it in the same sense of other teams where they just need to sell crazy and really um, get back into it at a crazy pace. I will say they need to get some sort of consistency. And if this is a step back season for them, that's understandable. They picked at the bottom of each round this year. They have all their picks next year. So they have the championship core still on this team. Maybe they sell a piece or two, get an additional pick or two to really kind of give this championship core another shot at going for it. I wouldn't say panic in a traditional sense, but I would say panic in a sense of this is not what you're looking for when you're trying to defend a championship.
For me, I think with this Express team, I have my hand hovering right over the panic button, ready to press it because they're 0-3 in the Legends division, where you have teams like the Knights, Lumberjacks, Wrongfielders, Retrievers. All of those teams have winning records. They've all had strong starts to their season. The Express. These are games I think they were winnable for them. They like the wrong fielders, they got blown out. The Knights is a 2 run loss, and the Retrievers, a 5 run loss there. They're gonna need to get their pitching under control here. I believe pitching was one of their stronger suits. Go in their championship run. Aside from their 1 run hit, the 1 run show on offense, but I think they're really missing Ellis right now, but I think over the next few weeks they can at least get back into the swing of things, and maybe crawl back towards 500, towards the middle end half this half.
Yeah. Kind of a little off tangent here, but that's a really good note that Pandora just mentioned. Area 51 started like 1-5 last season, ended up with a second or third best record, whereas the Astros started somewhere around 10-3 and missed the playoffs. So it'll kind of be interesting to
Interesting.
see, are those going to be replicated, or are they going to be um, is something going to change this year? That's a good point there. Next, I got the 0-3 Dragons. I'm going to say panic, hard panic on this team. They need to sell off everything they have. They do not have what it takes to win a championship this year. They do not have any players really that I see as exceptionally helpful to building a championship. I think whatever they have that's of value, they should be looking to shop it. They should be, they already have 2 first rounds next year, a second and a third. They need more picks. Their goal should be to obtain another first and potentially another second if possible. If not a third, they need a complete reset. They need to really get some more stuff. The season 13, they have 6 picks to work with. So maybe they play the long game and go for a 2, 3 year rebuild. However, whatever thing of value they have now, they should sell, tank to try to get a top 5 pick, and really start to look into building through the draft.
I agree with you there. Dragons sitting at 0-3. They got curb stomped by the Moonshots 18-4. Then they get beat down by the wrong fielders 7-1. So they're racing at a minus 22 run differential. And yeah, the season goes on. Maybe they recover, but they're one of the more weaker teams in the league. And looking at the sheet right now, they're sitting at 19th in overall rank. That's not a good spot to be in when you're already 0-3 in the season. So I agree with you there. I think they should be looking towards the future right now. Maybe see who can they sell off. I think they can still build around McPherson in the
Mhm.
pitching, but everyone else you probably want to try to sell off, get as many picks as you can.
Yeah, they don't have much in terms of batting. They need a complete retool. The only thing of value they have are the 2 season 11 players. So that between Bolt Bree and Seth Peck, I think the one place they can go to sell would be very likely Sierra Triffic, the left fielder. So it'll be curious to see if she ends up on the trade block here. Pitching wise, They got a couple more pieces between J.C. McPherson as well as Navarro as and Bruce Richmond. So they have a couple pieces that they could sell pitching wise. I think McPherson gets them the best chance at maybe a first round pick. We'll see how they're able to handle this trade deadline. They should be looking to sell and tank, really maximize their draft capital. Next team I got here is the 0-3 Serpents. For me, ooh, you know, let's take a look at their thing here. The Serpents lost to the Bombers, Unicorns, and I'm gonna say no on the panic here. I'm gonna say they're chill. Bombers, they lost by one. Unicorns, they lost by three. High Rollers, they lost by three. They're really not getting blown out by three top 10 teams. In reality, the Unicorns should be a top 10 team. They have the talent to do so. They're not performing to that capability right now, but I would say they're chill despite being 3-0. They got the Astros, Diamond Jacks, Skulls or Rocks, Cyclones. So outside of that Astros game, maybe they can compete there. However, Diamond Jacks, Skulls or Rock, they should be able to win. Cyclones, the Cyclones were one of the best teams in the league last year. However, they're not really performing up to standards. They do have a really tough schedule in terms of teams like the Storm, the Mythic, Bombers, and High Rollers. Again, um, I think in terms of strength of schedule, they might be considered a seller. They're ranked 23rd. I would consider them to be a seller. However, I wouldn't panic. They have some pieces that they can build around. They might not have the piece, the championship pieces, but they have pieces to work with.
Yeah, sitting at 0-3, the the issue here is they need offense production and they're not getting it because their pitching is just
I'm
borderline
gonna put,
awful. They really have
yeah.
no one in their uh, rotation that you can really rely on, other than Overlord, but he's been pretty underwhelming considering his pre season 10 hype. Just
They have,
looking and
yeah,
the
like
offense is still very strong. They just need them to wake up here and just hope that they can win some more shootouts going forward.
ooh, that's a take there, Pandora. I'm not opposed to it. Are the Serpents willing to dump Overlord, get him out of the and try to get something out of him before he ages out? I think that's a really good plan of action for him. That again, that would be pressing the panic button for the Serpents, maybe looking deeper into the stats. Maybe they should press the panic button. They don't have a championship or at least a deep playoff run on the horizon here. They got a weaker team. Overlord hasn't lived up to the hype. We all thought, he's a two-way player with Volatile. He'll just keep compounding and eventually get to um, locked in and stay that way. But I think, yeah, they're pretty far back on average. You're right on that, barring a sheet update. Dumping Overlord would give them the best chance to, yep, I'm seeing that 258.6. Would give them the best chance to rebound and maybe start to build a competitive core. Next team I got here, the only team that's not 3-0, but I thought I'd bring them in because of how they've lost. The 1-2 Stingers. I'm gonna say they're chill. I think their team's fine. However, I did want to mention them because they had a disaster of a game last week in terms of blowing it to the Mythic late. They were up, I believe, 8-2 at one point before they let that one slip away. And then this week they got beat fairly handedly by the Bombers, 6-1. Stingers need pitching. Yep, it seems like that team is going to be the the determiner for the Stingers. If they want to invest in this team, they can. This is a good team. I do see them as a playoff team. I think they're chill and they should buy. Unless their stat sheet hasn't updated though, they are ranked around 20th. Ooh, Stingers trading for Overlord. Pandora's already thrown out some mock trades. I don't hate that call right there. Have they not updated their sheet? Because I thought they were a lot better than this. Let's see
Yeah,
here. They've updated. They've updated.
it's updated. Okay, so Yeah, I don't know. In that 20th rank, it's kind of hard to be thinking about playoffs when you're already that low. So it's kind of like chill, but not chill because you're like everything's gonna turn out fine, but more like you realistically don't have high expectations for this season. So maybe it
Yeah,
could be
this team
some,
is
it could be like
much
keep
worse than I thought.
calm, go with the flow, and then just sell what you can. Or maybe maybe they collect some impressive wins over the next 2 weeks. Maybe at that point you get some nice pieces, but because we saw playoffs last season, we saw that once you get into the into the bracket, it's pretty much anyone's game. I mean, we saw both number one seeds get upset in the first round last season. We had a number six seed, I believe, win the the series. So it's like it doesn't really like all you gotta do is just get to the dance, and it's basically a whole new season from there. So maybe the Stingers can follow a similar path. They're just gonna have to, I think, get some pitching help there.
Yep.
Because just looking
Um,
to they have nice numbers. They have a 229, 222 in Guy Young and Hani West. But after that, it just kind of falls off a cliff there. You see, their worst pitches are 134, 121, and that you're pretty much running with a six team pitching there, which can be pretty rough going, especially if you have if you have a game like they had against the Mythic where they give up 12 runs and have to reach into their bullpen.
right. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna say chill on them, but and if they want to get back into it, they can obviously try to pick off, like you were saying, Pandora, some carcasses like the Dragons or the Skulls. They might be a fringe playoff team. The numbers don't show them as being a very good team. I do remember them being fairly decent last year. Correa is and Mejia are gonna, as well as Digit Suarez, are gonna be able to lead this team um, if they're gonna compete this season. So we'll kind of monitor them, see how they're able to do. Their next three are the Cyclones, High Rollers, and Unicorns. They need to get 2 wins out of that, and that's going to be a tough, tough road to do. Um, all three of those are going to be at home before they go on a massive road stint. So taking a look at the Stingers here, they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. First 6 games are at home. One, two, three. Next 8 games are on the road.
Whoa,
So they gotta
big
they gotta
big
get something going
change.
before they gotta get something going here before they go on the road.
And I think
Um,
that wraps up
that's
this segment here. And just before we close things out, we are gonna look at our week 4 schedule here. Kicking things off, our My Lumberjacks facing the Express. We have the Moonshots and Wrongfielders. One team is gonna be left not defeated, as both Moonshots and Wrongfielders 3-0. We have Cyclones and Stingers. Cyclones had a no wait, they did play. Never mind. And then we have the High Rollers and Unicorns ending things off. Two I say high profile matches here in the High Rollers Unicorn and then Moonshot Wrongfielders matches.
yeah. With this, I think that Moonshots Wrongfielders game is gonna be a hell of a game. See who's legit of those two teams, who can get to 4-0. High Rollers Unicorns should be a good game. Looking through this here. Retrievers Knights is another one to take a peek at. And then I'm curious to see how that Dragons Monstars game goes. That's a game the Monstars need to win. If they don't win, I might be pressing that panic button. They don't have draft capital really in the future. They get to 0-4, and if they lose to a corpse of a team in the Dragons, a Dragons team should be bottom three in the league and probably be picking in that top three in the draft this upcoming season. That would be a significant panic moment for me, as if they fall to the Dragons there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. We see kind of flips in the schedule here. We start off with some like the 3-0 matches and then ends off there Dragons Monsters, both of the teams going 0-3. So one of them will be able to end out this 4-team quadrant with at least a victory. Some little positivity going into them as we start going into like the Sims part of the schedule.
For
Um,
sure. I think
just
this is going to be a fun week for sure. If you're looking
definitely.
for offense, we're getting into the number 4 starters. I think the offenses are ready to go, looking to take off here, and I'm curious to see what they can do.
Yeah, definitely a lot of well-rounded matchups this week. And that being said, I think that pretty much wraps up our our weekly recap. Anything else you wanted to add, Shaggy?
Nope. Really good week of ball. We'll get into the final games of this slate before we get a nice little sim, and that'll be a really cool um, way to see where do teams begin to fall as we start getting our fourth game of actual play-in, and then once we get through our 4 games of sim, seeing where teams lie at 8 games will be for sure a good gauge as to who should be buyers and sellers here at this upcoming deadline.
Yeah, that because the deadline won't be for at least let's just say what another month, maybe like 6 weeks. I'm not sure the exact schedule, but I'm just using general estimations here with both the simming and the weekly playing. So like I say 6 weeks, 2 months. I think that's how far we are until the trade window opens. So it's definitely gonna be very interesting to see over the next upcoming weeks what happens.
Absolutely.
But
Well, it's
well,
been good.
yeah, it's been good. That being said, that'll be the end of our show. Thank you guys for
Appreciate y'all. Yeah,
yeah.
appreciate y'all in the chat. Absolutely helping us out and giving us a couple little nugs to work with. Sure helps seeing a lot from, personal team inside. We try to give a good overview of the games and maybe look a little into some of the rosters. But when you guys are in the chat and you're able to kind of comment on what you've seen from your team, what you've seen from other teams, it gives us an option and the ability to go see a little bit more in depth with this league. And we love doing that.
Yeah, if there's any suggestion you have for us, any segment you'd like us to possibly cover, hit us up. We're open to anything. This is for you guys, so whatever you guys want to see, just hit us up, and we'll try to work it into the show.
Talk to us too. We'd love to hear, if you got something going on with your team you think needs to be shared with the league. We'd love to have you guys come on and maybe do like a quick interview, get a little insight onto your teams and maybe expand on the show.
And yeah, that being said, thank you guys for tuning in, and catch you next week.
Thank you guys.